Om Namah Pranavartaya Suddhajnanayikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prasantaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpada Sankaram Lokasankaram Arunagiri Mupetam Sachidanandamurtyam Ramana Iti Prithivyam Vishrutam Jnanasuryam Gahana Hridaya Vidyam Leelaya Bodhayantam Satatamahamameyam Sadgurum Samsmara. Humble pranams. Atma Bodham, last session, we saw this verse 7. I will read out Bhagavan's translation. எவ்வளவு காலம் எவைக்கும் அதிஷ்டானமாய் அவ்யமாய் பிரமம் ஆய்ந்தறிதல் ஒவ்விடாது அத்துணை காலம் அகிலமும் மெய்யா தோன்றும் சுத்தி வெள்ளி போல துணி. The original Sanskrit verse of Shankara, this is what we saw last time. தாவத் சத்யம் ஜகத்பாதி சுக்திகா ரஜதம் யதா யாவத் ந ஞாயதே பிரம்ம சர்வாதிஷ்டானம் அத்வயம். The meaning is, till such time as you do not know the adhishtanam, the substratum of all the appearances, till the time you will consider this world to be real. We take the world to be real, but we never inquire, never try to understand what is behind this world's appearance. And that is the reason why we are going through all this suffering in this world, because we do not know the substratum. If we know the substratum, then the world appearance itself goes. The world itself does not appear. And that is the only way to put an end to suffering. No other way. Unless you know your own natural swabhavam, your swarupam, till that time, this illusion will continue, and then we are going to keep engaging with this world, and we are going to really suffer in the process of engaging with the world. This is what this particular shloka says. And he uses a word adhishtanam. Adhishtanam is a substratum. And he gives an example that from a distance on a beach, if you are walking on a beach, from a distance, you will see something like a silver coin. And when you go near that coin, you find that it is not silver at all, but it is a seashell, which is shining in the sunshine. It is shining like a silver coin. So now, is silver really there? Did the seashell become silver? Did it transform itself into silver? No, where is this error? The error is in our perception. The error is nowhere else. It is in our perception. You know, you have this other example also about a snake and a rope. In a dusk, in evening time, when there is no light, the light is falling. So in that dim light, you see the shape like a serpent, and then you are going to be afraid of it. You want to run away from that particular situation. And on examination alone, you will find that there was no snake there. It was all along a rope. The rope did not become snake. The snake was an appearance on the rope. So this appearance is called as aropitam, that which is superimposed. And the base, the rope, is called as adhishtanam. Unless there is a real base, a false appearance cannot happen. For the false appearance also, there is a base, a real base. There is reality behind that. But that is totally different. So this snake appears on a rope, and the only way to drive away the snake is to know that there is no snake. Whatever else you do, you're not going to drive away the snake. It's going to be there. Unless you correct this vision. And you are going to do it by taking a light and then shining it on the rope, and you are going to find that it is after all a rope and nothing more than a rope. So this adhishtanam and this aropitam, this appearance, Shankara is connecting it to our world experience. He says this world itself is an aropitam. It is an appearance. And the adhishtanam, the substratum, is pure Brahman. On pure Brahman, this has been superimposed, and the superimposition is called as adhyasam. Adhyasavadam, adhyasa, bhashyam is a very famous one. And Adi Shankara goes to great extent to explain ignorance through this superimposition. He says, whatever you see in the outside world is just a superimposition. And the only way you will be able to get rid of this ignorance of superimposition is to see what is behind everything. Till that time, this is going to appear and then it's going to pain you. It is going to make you suffer. There's no other way. This is what you have got to do, he says. In Viveka Chudamani, there are a series of shlokas where Adi Shankara says, this adhyasam, you should remove the adhyasam. And he has given a lot of hints also as to how to do this adhyasam, the superimposition. One of the verses, I will just read out this. Lokanuvartanam tyaktva dehanuvartanam shastranuvartanam tyaktva sva adhyasa apanayam kuru. Adhyasam is the superimposition. Apanayam kuru, remove this superimposition, and then be free from this suffering from this world. For that he says that lokanuvartanam tyaktva, your engrossment in this world, you should start reducing. It's not going to happen overnight. But we need, if we really want to realize the self, if that is our goal, there is no other goal. The worldly affairs should not engage us. Slowly we should be able to reduce them one by one. So he says, Loka anuvartanam tyaktva, and then he says, tyaktva deha anuvartanam, this deha poshanam, nursing this body, nurturing this body, and then be centered in this body all the time. In a very careful manner. You should do sadhana in such a manner that you are, centering in this body, you are anchoring in this body. That should go. Slowly, you should be able to find out a method by which we reduce our engrossment with anything to do with the body. And then finally, he says this is much more important. Shastranuvartanam tyaktva. He says, there is this tendency to keep on reading all kinds of books and then shastram, trying to keep on increasing our knowledge. This is a vasana. Other vasanas you'll be able to somehow get rid of. But this shastra vasana is something very, very difficult to get rid of. It's not going to take you much far. Once you know this is the truth, what all you need to do is put it into practice. Stop all your studies there. Once we have convinced that Bhagavan has said this is a very simple path, we have got into the path, there's no need to read. Maybe all the reading of Shastra and other thing may be useful for lectures, like what I am giving now. But otherwise, beyond that, there is absolutely no use at all in going after these Shastras. So he says this, Shastra Vasana is very difficult to get rid of. Don't get involved in this. Don't get into this. Bhagavan himself has made a remark in talks, I was saved from all that. I was saved. I didn't have to go on and read all these things. The experience came and I knew that there was no further need to know anything more than that. Once you know yourself, there is nothing else to know. So he says, and there are series of verses in Viveka Chudamani where Shankara talks about this Swa Adhyasa Apanayam Kuru. In this phrase, number of verses end. This is one of the verses. So this is the Adhyasa, the superimposition that Shankara is talking about. So I just thought that I would conclude the 7th verse with this additional information. We'll go to the 8th verse in Anma Bodham. Mudar Karanamai, I will first read out Bhagavan's translation and then I will go to the original. Mudar Karanamai, Muludin Adaram Aduvam, பரேசன் அகத்தே உததி உதி குமிழிகள் போல உலகங்களெல்லாம் உதித்து இருந்து ஓயும் உணர். பியூட்டிஃபுல், அப்சல்யூட்லி பியூட்டிஃபுல் தமிழ். உபாதானே அகிலாதாரே ஜகந்தி பரமேஸ்வரே சர்க்கஸ்திதி லயான் யாந்தி புத்புதானீவ வாரிணி. This is the Adi Shankara's verse. Here he says, uses a word upadane. We try to explain creation in so many different ways. This is something that we cannot escape. Any system of philosophy will have to give a reason as to how this world has come about, who has created it, how did he create. All these questions will come for any system of philosophy. So here, upadanam is a word that is used to indicate the material cause. The material cause is upadana karanam. The instrumental cause or the efficient cause, that is given the name nimitta karanam. And the example that is given is a potter is making pots using clay. The potter is the nimitta karanam, and the clay, the material that he uses to create all these pots, that is upadana karanam. Upadanam is a material cause, is matter. And there must be an efficient cause. Somebody, intelligent person, should be there to create all these things. So these are the two things. But in Advaitam, giving an explanation about the creation is very difficult, because Advaita says there is only one. If there is only one, how do you explain this multiplicity? It's very difficult. How do you explain it? If like a potter, this Brahman, let us say, Brahman is creating something. Is he like a potter, a creator? Then what is the material that he is making use of? Is he going to make use of a material that is other than himself? Then it cannot be one. Immediately that particular tattvam about there being everything being only one, that will fall immediately. But does he take material out of himself and create it? How does it? It does not sound very right, that he is creating so many different varieties from himself, but it has got to be there. That is the only truth. There is no other thing. So that is where Advaita, it has to adopt a different method of talking about creation. Advaita says that creation is actually perception. You see, and when you see there is a world. When there is no seer, there is no question of there being a world. We may not be able to accept it scientifically, but Bhagavan says, unless there is a seer, there is no such thing as the seen, as a creation. So the seer is primary and the seen is secondary. Even today's modern physicists also say the same thing. There is nothing out there without there being an observer. There is nothing out there. The observer is really required. So here Advaita says that Brahman is both the nimitta karanam as well as the upadana karanam, in the sense that Brahman becomes the adhishtanam, Brahman becomes the substratum for things to appear. Without that, nothing will appear, and everything is inside that. So here in this verse, Mudar Karanamai, he is the primal reason, cause for this, the universe. Mudal Karanamai, Murudin Adaram Aduvam. It is the adhishtanam, this is a substratum for everything. All the things, whatever is seen, is all based upon this. Without this, nothing can appear. Paresa nahatte, Parameshwara, in this Parameshwara, when Shankara uses this word Parameshwara, it is not the, the Godhead, like Ishvara, some such thing, but he is referring to the Brahman only. The Paresan here should be taken as Brahman. It is not the Ishtadevatam or whatever be the Godhead. It is not the What is the word? It'll come. Udadhi, Udi Kumilihal Pola. Udadhi means ocean. Udi Kumilihal Pola. From the ocean, bubbles rise up. Are the bubbles different from the water? But we see a shape or a wave, you take a wave appears. Is the wave different from the water underneath? It is the same. But our concentration, our attention goes to all these shapes. There is a big wave, there is a small wave, and there is a bubble coming out. Everything that appears on the ocean, surface of the ocean, is nothing but water. Water alone has become all these things. But our mind goes to the different sizes and shapes, and our attention goes there, and we think there are so many things that are created and so many things that are destroyed. But after all these things are water and water alone, nothing other than water. So Bhagavan here says, Udadi is the ocean. Udi kumidihal pole. The bubbles that are rising out of this ocean. Like that, Ulahangal ellam, all these worlds that are appearing, they come out of this water. Udit, they come out. That is creation. Irundu, they're all sustained. Oyum, and they all get destroyed. Udit, irundu, oyum, unar, he says. Upadane, akiladhare. This is the akiladharam. This is the substratum of all the things, everything. Jaganti is a plural for Jagat. Jaganti Parameshwari. All these worlds, they're all dependent upon this Adhishtanam, which is called as Parameshwara. Sarga Sthiti Layan Yanti. Sargam is creation. Sthiti is maintenance or sustenance. And Layam is the destruction. So all these three functions are all done in the same, in the substratum of the same Parameshwara. Layan Yanti. Budbudaniva, beautiful word. Budbudaniva, the sound itself is created as a word here. Like we say buzzing, yeah, the sound itself gives the Budbudaniva Varini. In this ocean, like this bubbles that rise out of this and go back into it. They're all from the water. They are nothing but the water, but they look different only because of the sizes and shapes. So this prapancham, this universe, is also the same way. The word prapancham is pancha. We say, what are the five elements? Satchidanandam, that is the substratum. That is the Nirguna Brahman, Satchidananda Vastu. On this, two more things are added to make this universe. And those two things are name and form. The very simple way of explaining the universe, it says just five things. Add two more to the substratum, you get the entire world. Different names and different forms, that's all, nothing more than that. So, Nama, Rupa, when they are added to this substratum, then we get the Prapancham. So, this verse talks about it. In Ashtavakra Gita, there's a dialogue between Janaka and Ashtavakra. So Ashtavakra starts instructing Janaka about what self is and so on. And listening to that, Janaka gets realization. He becomes a realized soul. And then he starts talking about his own experience. So some of those chapters are just mesmerizing, the way he describes the feeling of realization. One of the verses, it's very similar to what is said here. Mayananta Mahambodho Jagat Vichihi Swabhavataha Udetu Vastamayatu Name Vriddhihi Nachakshatihi, he says. My Ananta Mahambodho, in me, the infinite ocean of consciousness, in me, the infinite ocean of consciousness, Jagat Vichihi Swabhavataha, the waves of the worlds, by their own nature, they rise and they fall. In me. That's what he says after realization. In my consciousness, I am able to see these worlds rise and the worlds fall. And they leave no change in me. I am the same. Name vriddhihi nachakshatihi. There is no growth in me. nor is there any decline in me. I am the same. But the worlds come, they rise from me, go back in me. What must have been his experience to say this? From me, world rising and they're falling back. And there is absolutely no change in me. That is the there's a beautiful incident in Bhagavan's life, a very well-known incident, but worth mentioning here. During the time he was staying in Virupaksha cave, Kavyakanta was also staying in a nearby cave. It is known as a mango tree cave or some such thing. That is where the Uma Sahasram itself was composed. And Bhagavan would go and spend some time with Kavyakanta and then go back. So once, I believe, he walked back to Virupaksha cave from this mango tree cave along with Kavyakanta. They were walking together. Kavyakanta also wanted to come with Bhagavan because night was falling. It was becoming dark. At one place, Bhagavan stopped and he showed the sky to Kavyakanta. Naina, do you see this? And there was a full moon. Beautiful night, full moon was there. All around it, there were stars. So they were looking at it for some time, and then Bhagavan turned to Nayana, and I believe he told him, Nayana, I feel that all the stars are going around my waist. All the stars are going around my waist. And then I believe he asked Nayana, then who am I? Then who am I? I believe he repeated, then who am I? A very rare revelation from Bhagavan. And Kavyakanta was stunned at that time. Stunned to see him. Immediately in his mind, these words from Purusha Suktam sprang up. He saw Bhagavan as the Virat Purusha. Purusha as it is described in the thing. Nabhya asid antariksham, says Purusha Suktam. Chandrama manaso jataha, chaksho suryo ajayata, mukhadindrascha agnischa, pranadvayurajayata, nabhya asid antariksham. From the navel region of this Purusha, the entire space came out. This is what Purusha Suktam says. From his mind, moon came. From his eyes, Surya came. And so many other things, from Pranan, from his breathing, this Vayu came. That is one way of describing the creation. Cosmology is described in that manner in Purusha Suktam. Immediately, Kavyakanta, when he looked at Bhagavan, he saw the Virat Purusha, the Vishwarupa. He saw that. I believe he mentioned it to T.K. Sundaresh Iyer and some of his other disciples like Vishwanatha Swami and others. This is what Bhagavan told me yesterday. So, what Janaka says or what is said here, in this Sachidanandam, the worlds rise and fall. They are just appearances in this Sachidananda Brahma. That was the experience of this Jnani. It's a very rare revelation from Bhagavan, but it is recorded. So, Kanakamma, when she was giving this meaning of this, she adds a very interesting sentence while as an explanation to this. This upadanam, mudal karanam, upadanam, all these things. She says this upadanam that is mentioned here has got a technical jargon, and it is known as vivarta upadana karanam. That is, it is an apparent cause, but not the real cause. Brahman is not related to anything. Nothing you can relate. Brahman is not related to anything, but everything depends upon Brahman. There is a one-way relationship, but not the both-way relationship between. That is the way our Vedanta describes Brahman. So, this Upadana Karanam is actually an apparent cause. an appearance, an apparent cause, and not a real upadanam, the way we normally conceive material cause and other things. So, Vivarta is a name that she adds. It's interesting to know that after Adi Shankara came out with this Advaita Siddhantam, the post Shankara period, Advaita had two schools of thought. It kind of split into two. It was all started by a person by name Vachaspati Mishra, about 200, 300 years after Adi Shankara. He wrote a commentary on Brahma Sutra Bhashyam of Shankara. He wrote a commentary and he called it as Bhamati. Bhamati actually happens to be his wife's name. There's a big story behind it. I will not go into it. So he wrote a commentary called as Bhamati, a commentary on the commentary of Adi Shankara. There he mentions a particular method of looking at Maya or avidya or ignorance. When we say Maya, it is applicable to the entire cosmos. That is Maya. When it is applied to an individual, it is known as avidya or ignorance. It's the same. Principle is the same, but in relationship to an individual, it is called as avidya. In relationship to the entire cosmos, it is known as Maya. So, he mentioned in Bhamati that Maya is resident on the individual. Ignorance is with respect to the individual. Does not reside. That is, the locus of Maya is not Ishvara, but the locus is the individual. That is his theory. But 200 years after him came another Advaitin, a great Advaitin by name Prakash Atman. By mentioning all this, these are all our spiritual heritages. All these great people. For centuries, they debated every point. It is not as though that, this is what I say, though you should take it down. They debated all this. They reached a conclusion. There was a healthy discussion going on, intellectual discussion. So that is why Advaita is a very unique Siddhantam. So this Prakash Atman, what he said was, it cannot be so. Based upon a commentary written by Adi Shankara's direct disciple, who is Padmapada, he wrote what is known as Panchapadika. That Panchapadika was actually, it was not a complete commentary on the Brahma Sutra Bhashyam, but halfway through it was stopped for various reasons. Only first five sutras were explained by Padmapada. Based upon that, this Prakash Atman, he wrote a big commentary and he called this as Vivaranam. The Vivarta, the word Vivarta that is used by Kanakammal comes from this Vivaranam. Vivartavadam and Bhamati Vadam. There are two schools, the Bhamati school and the Vivarana school, these two schools. And what was their contention? What are the differences between them? Where does Maya reside? Is Maya with the individual or is the Maya with the Ishvara or Brahman? He said, Prakash Atman said, there can be nothing apart from Brahman. We are going to say that there is only one. It has to accommodate Maya also. So Maya is part of Brahman. Maya cannot be outside of Brahman. That was the thing. Then this other school asked, how is it possible? How can knowledge and ignorance coincide and coexist in the same place? How is it possible? It does not make any sense. Ignorance as part of individual is understandable, but not part of Brahman. Then for that, these people reply that the jnanam coexists with ignorance because of this reason. When somebody says, I don't know, he knows that he does not know about something. Even that is knowledge. Not knowing something is also some form of knowledge. How does this knowledge come? It must be coming from the basic consciousness alone. So the same consciousness is accommodating both ignorance as well as jnanam, as we understand it. And then Bhagavan gives an explanation for this later on. He says the jnanam that is mentioned is the Swarupa Jnanam. We covered it in one of the previous verses. Swarupa Jnanam. The Swarupa Jnanam is not opposed to ignorance. It illumines both ignorance as well as knowledge. That is Swarupa Jnanam. That is fundamental, transcendental reality. It illumines everything. Like I said, I don't know. That ignorance is also illumined by the same Jnanam only. What is opposed to ignorance is called as Vritti Jnanam. Vritti Jnanam is a concentrated, focused awareness which we use in our sadhana. That is why we use in our sadhana. It is a very subtle vritti, but that vritti is to be developed by us. When we say we are doing sadhana, we are developing that subtle vritti, the ability to focus attention on your own self. Because there is an effort involved in it, it is called as Vritti Jnanam. So, Swarupa Jnanam is not opposed to ignorance, so it is able to accommodate Maya also in it, and that is the only way. So, this kind of a debate raged for several centuries. Maya being part of individual, Maya being part of Brahman and other things. Now, Muruganar says in Guruvachaka Kovai, our Acharya Ramana, though he does not talk much about all these things, he favors only the Vivarta Siddhantam. The Vivarta Siddhantam, because he has always mentioned about these appearances. So Ramanacharya, his own favorite thing is Vivarta Siddhantam. When you ask Bhagavan these questions, he would say, why do you worry about Maya? You know that Maya has to go. Why don't you concentrate on removing Maya rather than discussing about where it is? Is it here or it is there? It's not going to be very fruitful. So avoid all these discussions. Carry on with your practice and then realize that is much more important. But from his writings, Muruganar says, Ramanacharya, he favors the Vivarta Siddhantam. He says, I'm not able to look at it. Anyway, the places where Bhagavan talks about this Vivarta Siddhantam is the very first verse in Ulladu Narpadu. We can say, Nam Ulaham Kandalal. There he says that Nama Uru Chittiramum, Serpadamum, Aruliyum, Attane Parpanum, Attanayum Tanam Avan. Everything is only that. And he also says in Ashtakam, in one place in Ashtakam, he says, Unnil aladu ila adisaya shakti. This Maya is a wondrous Shakti, but not apart from you. He very clearly mentions that. Not apart from you, Arunachala. He says that. So, based upon all these things, Muruganar says that Bhagavan basically he favors this jnanam, with this particular Siddhantam, which is the Vivarta Siddhantam. Okay. So, and also he says, Ajnanamume jnanamam tanna indri andru attanayum tanam avan. When he says that, Ajnanam is also not apart from this jnanam. So, he has settled the whole thing by his words and his writings. But while if you ask him questions, and he would not really say that this is what it is or that is what it is. And then is a typical of Bhagavan. So Sargasthiti Layanyanti Budbudaniva Varini. That's what this verse says in Anma Bodham. We'll go to the next verse. Verse number 9. Satchidanandan Sahalattumul Ullan Ichanam Vishnu Nilai Tannil சொச்சமாம் பொன்னில் கடகாதி போலும் பல் தோற்றமெல்லாம் அந்நியம் அன்று என்று அறி. The original Sanskrit verse is Sachidatman anusyute nitye vishnau prakalpitaha vyaktayo vividhas sarvaha hatake katakadiva. Here, what it means is that Sachidananda Atman, this Atman which is the substratum of everything, Sakalatum Ullan. He pervades everything and he is the inner self of everything. He is the innermost self of everything. He pervades everything and he has become the innermost self. Ichanam Vishnu Nilai Tannil. Ichanam Vishnu Nilai Tannil means he is a formless Brahma Swarupam. From this formless, unlimited, without the infinite form of this, Socchamam Ponnil Kadahadi Polum. In the pure gold, we make a lot of ornaments, but the gold is the same. There may be many ornaments. He is comparing it to Brahman. Brahman alone is there everywhere, just as gold is there in all the ornaments. Every ornament, nothing other than gold. There are no two things there. If there is gold and there is a necklace or a bangle or some such thing, they are all different shapes and patterns from the same gold. Similarly, from the same Brahman, there are so many different forms and appearances. But ultimately, if you really analyze, what is innermost self of all of them is only gold. Advaita, the best explanation for Advaita is this. There are no two things there. The gold becoming various ornaments itself explains the Advaita. Necklaces, not two, but only one. It is gold only. If it is two, then I can say that let me have the necklace, you take the gold. It cannot be that. So this Advaitam gets explained so beautifully by this example that the same gold takes so many different shapes. And they become, starting from Upanishad, from the Chandogya Upanishad, where the Vakyam, Mahavakyam, Tattvamasi comes, this particular example is used. In Chandogya Upanishad, the Rishi Uddalaka Aruni, his son Shvetaketu, he sends him to study Vedas in some other Gurukulam. After that study, the boy comes back. He asks him, have you learned? He says, yeah, I have learned everything. So this father sees a little bit of pride in this boy and he wants to prick the balloon. So he says, did they teach you that wisdom by which, knowing that you will know everything? Did they teach you that? Boy was stunned and he thought about it. No, maybe they did not know, he said. Boys will be boys always. Maybe they did not know. But if you are going to teach me, then I will learn from you. That was also there, the boy. Then this passage about this Tattvamasi, Mahavakya Prakaranam, that whole thing is there. This is known as Upadesha Mahavakyam. So there he says, when you know a nugget of gold, you know everything about gold. Knowing that small sample, it is enough to know the sample, characteristics of the sample for you to really know everything about gold. You don't have to go on and analyze, keep on analyzing in so many places. Similarly, this Sachidananda Brahman, if you know that, you know everything. Because everything is made of this alone, nothing more. 200, 300 years afterward, 2-3 centuries later on, there was a great sage in Tamil by name, in Tamil Nadu by name, Tirumular. In his Tirumandiram, he says a very important, a beautiful thing. He says, Ponnai maraitadu ponnani bhudanam. Ponnai maraitadu ponnani bhushanam. These ornaments, all the necklaces, bangles, and so many things, they have hidden the gold. Because when you look at all the various patterns, your mind and attention goes to these patterns and not to what is inside or what is it is composed of. You are going to only look at the various patterns. A lady goes and she wants to buy something. She says, I don't like this. She's not rejecting gold. She is not interested in that particular pattern. She wants some other design. That's what it means. And her attention will be all in the various new modern patterns of these necklaces or bangles or some such thing. But when she is picking up one by one all these things, the jeweler is counting. Meanwhile, oh, that is 70 grams. Oh, another 50 more grams. So in his mind, the number, how many grams will be going on, and she'll be looking at various patterns. Even a thief is not going to reject a bangle and then only pick up a necklace. For him, everything is only gold. Yeah, Jnani's vision is like a thief's vision. He sees only what is fundamental, what is inside you. So because when you touch the very core of existence, your core of existence, you touch the core of existence of everything that exists, the same center. Your center and the center of everything that is created, all the existence, both of them are the same centers. That's why when you are self-realized, you see everything as only that vision. Papa Ramdas, the person who was, he exemplified the Nama Japam, he came to Bhagavan. We know the story. Actually, he got his realization after meeting Bhagavan. He spent some time in Bhagavan's presence and then he was absolutely, totally very peaceful, and that with that peace of mind, he went to one of the caves in Arunachalam, and there he did tapas for a long time, for about 4 or 5 weeks, and the end of which he got illumination, he got enlightenment. He saw Rama everywhere. His Ishta Devata was Rama. He saw Rama everywhere. It was an ecstatic moment for him. He ran out of the cave. He saw a tree. He saw Rama there. He saw a bird. He saw Rama in that bird. And he says, a beggar was passing along and I saw Rama in that beggar. I ran to him and hugged him. He was terrified. He was terrified when I went and hugged him. Who is this madman coming and hugging me? So with a touch of humor, Papa Ramdas says that he was relieved when he saw that I did not have any teeth. He was very relieved. But that is the vision. When you see yourself, you see the whole creation as only that. Atma samstitihi swatma darshanam. Isha darshanam swatma rupataha, he says in Upadesha Sara. You can see Ishvara only as your own Atman. And when you touch the Atman, you touch everything, all the things. So that is what this particular verse says. Of course, a little more has to be explained about this. We can take it up in the next session. Right now, I conclude. Thank you.